Hi, everybody. We're back today to continue our discussion on Maimonides and his interpretation of. Today, we're going to discuss the resurrection. It's very short, and I'm going to start reading where it says, religious Jews believed in immortality in a spiritual sense, and most believe that the future would include a messianic era and a resurrection of the dead. This is the subject of Jewish eschatology. Maimonides wrote much on this topic, but in most cases he wrote about the immortality of the soul for people of perfected intellect. His writings were usually not about the resurrection of dead bodies. Rabbis of his day were critical of this particular aspect of this thought, and there was a controversy over his true views. So what Maimonides is saying here is that everything is about understanding knowledge, is seeking the knowledge and the wisdom from above. That the ones who understand the meaning of why we're here, who understand God, who understand philosophy, who can excel intellectually and go higher and higher and higher. We're talking about people like Philo and Aristotle and Isaac Newton and Plato. When you look up in the Strong's Greek and you look up a number, you will often see in parentheses and brackets Philo, Aristotle, Plato, and they're making reference. I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but if you look up any number, you'll see that in Strong's Greek. And in Judaism, philosophy is everything. Philosophy are the thinkers. They're the ones who have elevated themselves higher and higher and higher through knowledge. And as they elevate themselves, they separate from the rest of the world. As we can see, if we go back in time, it's no different than it is today. There was a lower class, the plebeians back then, who they would not share their information with. They were looked down on as if that they were lazy and they had no drive and desire. That's why when you read Paul's testimonies and you read his scriptures, he's always striving for the crown, and he's taken a beating, and he has to have courage to continue, because there is a struggle to overthrow the flesh. See, the flesh wants you to be sedentary and immobile and lazy. And in order for you to overcome that laziness, you have to overthrow the flesh's will. And when these people were successful at doing that, they supposedly learned more about philosophy and the ways things were, and they perceived that they understood, while the lower class did not understand. And this separated the classes even more and more. It says here, eventually Maimonides felt pressured to write a treatise on the subject, known as the Treatise on the Resurrection. In it, he wrote that those who claimed that he believed the verses of the Hebrew Bible referring to the resurrection were only allegorical were spreading falsehoods. So basically, he's saying here that there was rumors going around that he thought the resurrection in the Hebrew scriptures was simply allegorical, but he's saying that that is not true. Maimonides asserts that belief in resurrection is a fundamental truth of Judaism about which there is no disagreement. While his position on the world to come, which is non-corporeal eternal life, as we just described in the above paragraph, may be seen as being a contradiction with his position on bodily resurrection. So there's a contradiction here between bodily resurrection and corporal, the mind, the resurrection of the mind, ascending of the mind. See, there's two different ascensions here that he's making reference to. Maimonides resolved them with a unique, very unique solution. Maimonides believed that the resurrection was not permanent or general. In his view, God never violates the laws of nature. Rather, divine interaction is by way of angels, whom Maimonides often regards to be metaphors for the laws of nature, the principles by which the physical universe operates, or Platonic eternal form. You see, God wouldn't defile the world order, but these guys would. We're talking about the gods like Mars, Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, and Leviathan, which, you know, in Jewish mythology is referenced in the book of Psalms, the book of Job, Isaiah, Amos, Enoch. And, you know, the Leviathan in Job is a reflection of the older Canaanite Lotan. It's a primeval monster defeated by the god Baal Hadad. And it parallels to the role of Mesopotamian Tiamat, defeated by Marduk, and has been drawn as a comparative mythology to a dragon or a world serpent. Okay, Leviathan, it also figures in the Hebrew Bible as a metaphor for a powerful enemy, notably Babylon, which is spoken about in Isaiah 27:1. See, now Plato described the forms of the universe and how the universe works. And we're going back to the philosophers again who describe the cosmos and relativity and gravity and all of that, see? So they're saying that God would never violate his own order of things. Well, if that were true, then we wouldn't have tsunamis, because the boundaries, God set the boundaries in the oceans. He set the boundaries. He says he would not destroy the world with water anymore. Okay? You know, there are boundaries of physics everywhere. And every now and again, they are violated. They just burst in and happen. Okay? I'll tell you one that happened to me. I didn't get to my mother's body, who passed away, until an hour and 20 minutes after her death. And when my husband and I walked in to the room where she lay, we both touched her, and her body was as warm as mine and yours. Now, physics, that's not likely to happen unless it's 99 degrees in the room. I actually could not believe that the laws of the universe were altered so that I would have a positive experience seeing my mother for the last time. And the Lord did that. He turned her body warm. And I have a witness. I have a physical witness to that. My husband touched her too. And we both looked at each other and we could not believe that she was as warm as he and I. Okay? So that is violating the laws of nature, because that is not possible. I actually called the New Jersey Bergen County Coroner's Office to ask if that were possible. And she said no, not if it was 99 degrees in that room, then that's why she would be warm. She asked me, was it 99 degrees in the room? I said, no way. So she says, well, then she wouldn't have been warm. So I says, well, how did it happen? Because my husband and I felt it. And she says, just take it as a gift. That's exactly what she said. So you see, these Jews are writing, interpreting who God is and what God's laws are. And they don't even know God. They don't even know God. God didn't do that for them. If God had done that for Maimonides, okay, then he would know that what he just wrote is an outright lie. Maimonides reserved them with a then very unique solution. He believed that the resurrection was not a permanent or general. In his view, God never violates the laws of nature. Rather, divine interaction is by way of angels, whom Maimonides often regards to be metaphors for the laws of nature, the principles by which the physical universe operates, or platonic eternal forms. So the angels can make storms. It's okay for them to make storms because the Lord would not violate the boundaries that he set. But the angels could come and make a volcano erupt, and the angels could come and bring a tsunami, and the angels could do it. Are these the fallen angels? Whom Maimonides often regards to be metaphors for the laws of nature, the principles by which the physical universe operates, or platonic eternal forms. This is not always the case. In Hilshot Yesodei HaTorah, chapters 2 to 4, Maimonides describes angels that are actually created beings. Thus, if a unique event actually occurs, even if it is perceived as a miracle, it is not a violation of the world's order. So that was an angel that turned my mother's body warm an hour and a half after she passed away. The Lord didn't do that, according to Maimonides. In this view, any dead who are resurrected must eventually die again. In his discussion of the 13 principles of faith, the first 5 deal with knowledge of God. The next 4 deal with prophecy and the Torah, while the last 4 deal with reward, punishment, and the ultimate redemption. In this discussion, Maimonides says nothing of a universal resurrection. All he says is that whatever resurrection does take place, it will occur at an intermediate time before the world to come, which he repeatedly states will be a purely spiritual resurrection. Very interesting, isn't it? And I came across this article that I want to read to you about Maimonides. There was supposed to be an event in Europe that was going to put on display in March of 2020 Hebrew manuscripts. It was a Hebrew manuscript exhibition, and it was going to feature handwritten Maimonides letters. It's the British Library, and it had been delayed by the coronavirus lockdown. Now I'm going to read to you what they were going to display about Maimonides. The British Library is reopening with its delayed Hebrew manuscripts exhibition, which includes a handwritten letter by the 12th century Jewish philosopher Moses Maimonides. Opening on September 1st, that was supposed to be this year, the collection draws from more than 3,000 manuscripts owned by the library. This is owned by the British Library, including the letter from Maimonides to a teacher who had contacted him for help while he was in Egypt. Do you remember when I told you he was in Egypt? Also going on display is the earliest dated copy of Maimonides, the Guide for the Perplexed, from the year 1380. The 40 manuscripts on display, many of which have never been shown to the public before, date as far back as the 10th century and span science, religion, law, music, philosophy, alchemy, and Kabbalah. It was an extremely demanding and challenging initiative, but we are so proud to have accomplished it. The curator, Ilana Tahan, told The Guardian, "We wanted to celebrate that by exhibiting a selection of manuscripts, some of which have never been on public display before." As the greatest Jewish polymath leader of the Middle Ages, Maimonides became the spiritual leader of the Jewish community in Egypt. The teacher who wrote to him had been teaching two young girls in a remote community of Egypt. Now, for some reason, which is not quite clear from the documents, maybe somebody said something derogatory about him, but he took an oath. This teacher took an oath to stop teaching the two girls. So this teacher who was teaching the two girls contacted Maimonides, and for some unknown reason, all of a sudden, the teacher took an oath to stop teaching these two girls. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the museum had completed a 6-year process of digitalizing the manuscripts. There is also a 16th century spell book on display containing 125 recipes on show, including one recipe to increase love between the bridegroom and the bride, which involves writing their names in honey on 2 sage leaves and giving them to each other to eat. Another on how to catch a thief, and suggests simply writing the names Kemetin Kanit Kukari Ve Hikani Yasaf on kosher parchment and then hanging it from the neck of a black rooster, and the rooster will then jump on the head of the thief. The show was originally scheduled to open in March, but will now be a part of the British Library's gradual reopening after the lockdown. So if you want to read that article, you can go to www.jc.com/news/UK/Hebrew-Maimonides-features-handwritten-features-1.505774. So that's it for now. I'll be back with some more on Maimonides.